Hello, everybody. My name is John Hawkins, and I'd like to welcome you to the second Web Dev Studios webinar. I'm the Director of Products over at Web Dev Studios, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to turn your WordPress website into a mobile app. As we're going through this webinar, if you do have any questions in the GoToWebinar control panel, you'll see a spot for questions. Go ahead and put them in there. And as we get towards the end of the webinar, I will go through and answer all of your questions. So let's go ahead and get started. There we go. So why should you consider building an app? This is some information I want to talk about just in case you ever, if you're not the decision maker and you need to convince your boss or a client why they should consider building an app. So let's first talk about the percentage of website traffic. So web traffic to a typical website these days, they're figuring is roughly 56% is coming from mobile, where 44% is coming from desktop traffic. And percentage of device time, so when people are on their phones or their mobile devices, 86% of the time they're using apps as compared to only 14% of the time when they're using the mobile web. And when you're looking at your mobile device, let's say a phone, for instance, over on the left here, you can see this is the Huffington Post, and only about 50% of your screen real estate is even available for viewing the actual content. You may have, banners and things across the top, and so only 50% is actually being used by the content itself. And then if you look at that example on the right, here you've got a site that isn't mobile responsive, and you may have pop-ups that are blocking your visitors from seeing your content. So just the entire experience for the end user is just not very good, or not as good as it can be, I should say. So if we're taking a look at what a mobile app could look like, now you see here, as a mobile app, you've got 90% of your screen real estate, which is being used by your content. And if you look at the one on the right, you can see now your users are actually getting to your content much quicker. They're seeing a much broader amount of your content without having to, scroll, swipe, go to second pages, etc. Also, another great reason to have an app is now you can have another location, let's say the App Store, for example, where this is just one more place for your customers to find your business, for them to consume your content, purchase your products, or to get in touch with you. Plus, one of the things that a native app can do is you can now use things like push notifications and the camera and geolocation, connecting with contacts and things like that, things that you can't necessarily do with just a mobile website. So these are just a couple of reasons why you might consider building an app to begin with, but if we're going to be building an app, why would you consider using WordPress to do it? And a lot of that actually goes right back to why you consider using WordPress to build your website to begin with, which is, you got a lot of those. You can build just about any types of apps that, any type of app that you can, any type of site that you could build with WordPress, you could typically build that into an app as well. So one of the other main reasons is, again, goes right back to that control factor that you get with WordPress, where so for many of the same reasons, you can now you can build your app with WordPress. When you build your app with WordPress, your changes are instantly available inside of your app. So with access to thousands of plugins, you have all of those same types of things that you can now change in WordPress. You can now change those inside of your app as well. Plus, you have that single point of data management. And the changes that you make to your content, design, and functionality, you can do all of those things without having to go through the submission process of pushing those things back through to the App Store every single time. So if you're going to build an app, so what sort of options do you have? So if you're a non-developer, there are other options out there for getting your content into a native app. There's services out there that'll do this. Many of those are going to pull your posts in like via RSS, but you wouldn't really have the control you have inside of WordPress. That means no using plugins for integration, no user registration or login. You couldn't use something like BuddyPress or WooCommerce or Gravity Forms. You wouldn't have access to push notifications straight through WordPress like you do. And uploading images from the apps to WordPress, etc. So you would kind of lose all of those sorts of things. And then you would also have, now you'd be stuck with a third-party content management system, and you'd be managing your content in potentially two different places. So not as much customization, and you certainly don't retain that control that you would with doing it inside of WordPress yourself. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you to AppPresser. AppPresser is a collection of plugins and a theme that you install on your existing WordPress website. It works in conjunction with your live website, but doesn't interfere with what your visitors are viewing on your normal website in their browser or on a desktop or mobile device. AppPresser enables you to configure the settings for what will become your mobile app right alongside your live website. It's not going to interfere with what's going on with your live site. It is only going to affect what happens when you bundle this up and submit it as an app. It makes it easy to create content and menus that are specific to your app versus content that's going to be specific to your website. So at this point, I'm going to show you the process of turning your website into a mobile app. Step 1, installing the AppPresser plugin. So this works exactly, this is all happening right inside of your WordPress website. So this all happens, if you're already familiar with working with WordPress, you already know how to install plugins. So you can see here on this particular site, I've installed the default AppPresser core plugin. And I've also installed a couple of the add-ons. So the app push is for doing push notifications, and sharing lets you build in some of the native iOS or Android sharing functionality right into your app. There's a whole stack of additional plugins for AppPresser, things to let you use the camera, geolocation, a whole bunch of other ones. But for this particular example, I was only using these particular two. Once you get those installed and activated, next we're going to install the AppPresser theme. So installing a theme is very similar, it's exactly similar to installing any other theme on your WordPress website. The only difference here is that in this particular case, I'm using the Ion theme for my app. But you'll notice that it is not the active theme on the site, and that's on purpose. If it was the active site, then all the visitors who are coming to my site in their browser would actually be seeing that mobile theme, and that's not what I'm looking to do, and that's not what AppPresser needs. Instead, you simply need to upload the Ion theme, and it'll be there so that AppPresser can use it, but your site would actually still be using your main theme. So once you have that uploaded, next it's time to configure some of the AppPresser settings. So here on the initial AppPresser settings tab, we're gonna deal with two main settings. The first one is the app-only theme, and this is where you're gonna choose the drop-down. If you were obviously you're gonna, in this particular case, I'm using the Ion theme, but if you were building your own, you could choose that there as well. And then down below that, you can see where I'm going to decide what I want on the home page for the app. So I can either have it choose the latest posts, or if I wanted to build a static page that was going to be displayed when people first load up that app. Now, again, it's important to understand this is only affecting what's happening inside of the app, and this has nothing to do with what's going on inside of your main website and what your visitors are going to see when they visit it inside of a browser. So after we set those two settings, now it's time to go in and customize the look of the theme of your app. And we do that through the customizer. On the the customizer here, the first one we can choose is to customize the colors. And right here you can see on this screenshot, I've probably, what is that? It's allowing you to choose 7 of the different locations, but I'm going to tell you that actually scrolls down quite a bit further, and there's a pretty large number of the colors that you can change for the content, the text, the buttons, and all of that. So you can change all of those settings and give your app, make your app look exactly like you want it to look in your design. Once we change all of the colors, now again, I do want to point out this is all happening in the customizer. So these, if you're already familiar with working with WordPress, this is going to seem very, very familiar because you've probably done this a dozen times already. Here's where we have a bit to, inside the menu location, we can now choose a specific menu. We can create a menu that is specific to the app. So this is a great way where if you wanted to have pages or specific content that is only going to be important for your people who are using your site on via the app, you can now do that by creating those pages and then creating a specific menu that is only used on the app. So I've chosen here the HBD app menu, and now that is going to be selected only for people seeing it on the app, and anybody viewing my website would never see that menu. And the last setting is the customization for the logo. This is on this particular screen, on the site identity screen. I do want to point out there are a couple of options here, like the site title and the tagline, marked with an asterisk. Those ones would modify what your browser visitors would see in your browser, but this particular logo is actually going to fit right up there inside of your mobile app, and it replaces the text that would show up for the text of the page name. So just one more way that you can kind of customize the look and feel of your app and give it a very specific look. At this particular point, if you wanted to, we've actually built an app at that point. So you've converted, you've set up all of the settings, you've made the look and feel kind of the way that you want it to of the app. In theory, at that point, even as a complete non-developer, you could submit that app and be ready to go, and your app would be ready for the App Store. But for developers who kind of want to take their app to the next level and dig a little bit further and customize a bit further, the first thing that you're going to want to do is create a child theme. And this is a best practice for working with WordPress itself. Anytime that you're building a custom theme or doing any sort of functionality like that, you always want to start off with a child theme. And working with AppPresser and the Ion theme is really no different. So what I've done is I've gone through and created a child theme called the HBD app theme. And all I'm doing is I'm going right back in here, and on the AppPresser settings page, I'm now choosing it here. And again, it's setting on my setting is for my latest posts. So now once I've done that, I can go in and I can make changes that are going to affect only my site. And then if changes come, as soon as AppPresser makes changes to the Ion theme, those changes can be pushed in, uploaded to your site without affecting and without you losing any of your changes that you've made to your specific theme. So just to give you an idea, this doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go and build everything from scratch. On one of the sites that I've built, this right here is the entire set of custom function or custom theme that I added in my style.css file. It doesn't necessarily have to be a ton of changes. This is just a couple of very minor tweaks that I wanted to make so that my app ended up looking exactly how I wanted my app to look. And the same goes on the functionality side. I've gone in and I've already gone through the process of building my entire site through plugins and functionality. And now in this particular functions.php, which lives in my child theme, I can now make a couple of very small tweaks and get that custom functionality that I need that is only going to be specific for the for the app and not affect the theme that people would see in my browser. For the developers, we've also got, and not even for non-developers, if you take a look at docs.apppresser.com, we have a fair amount of information about all of our different extensions, code snippets, tutorials, lots of information that's available, not to mention having links to getting support directly from our team. So at this point, you've built your app, and now it's time that as you're building your app, you really want to start getting an idea of what that's going to look like. With AppPresser, we've given you two opportunities, two different ways that you can preview your app before submitting it for inclusion in any of the app stores. Back in the AppPresser settings page, on the Advanced tab up here, you're going to see this option down here for loading the AppPresser for admins only. So what this means is that you, as a logged in admin on your WordPress website, you can now go to the front end of your website and get a general idea of what your app is going to look like once you submit it to, once you view it on a mobile device. So you can see here, this is what my app looked like while viewing it as an admin, but in a browser. So this isn't going to be a perfect representation because obviously the screen dimensions are completely different. So it's not really showing me exactly what the app is going to look like. But at a very quick glance, especially during development when you're making rapid changes and you want to just get an idea of what it's looking like, I at least have an idea of how it looks, and I can adjust colors, maybe change out the logos, and tweak things like that before my submission. But as you get closer to finishing your app, you're going to want to test it out on a mobile device. For iOS users, you can go to the App Store and download the AppPresser Preview app, which then gives you the ability to, once it loads up, you type in your URL, and now you'll get you can view the app right in your mobile device. And so from here, I now have the opportunity to see, first off, the layout on how exactly it's going to look on my mobile devices. And not only that, I can even work with some of the native functionality like the camera and tools like that to get a really good sense of what my app's final product is going to look like before I submit to the App Store. So speaking of the submission to the App Store, this is an entire process that it's a bit of work. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There are a fair bit of steps. What I will tell you is that if you go back to docs.apppresser.com, we have a very extensive document that walks you through the process step by step to give you exactly what you need to get your app submitted. The way that it works in general is you go to AppPresser. We have a build form, which I should have taken a screenshot, I realize. From that build form, you take that and we will then export for you a zip file that you use PhoneGap and build out the two documents, the files that you're going to then submit, one to the App Store and one to the Google Play Store if you wanted it to be in both locations. So the steps for getting those set up, again, go to docs.apppresser.com and you'll see that we've kind of walked you through that process. If by chance you decide that you don't want to go through that submission process yourself, we do have a service through apppresser.com where we will submit the apps for you on your behalf. So if it comes to that, we'll help you out at that point as well. So at this point, if you're ready to try AppPresser, I would suggest that you go over to apppresser.com and take a look at the different bundles that are available. There is a coupon code available for this webinar, WDS webinar, and that'll give you 20% off any of the bundles that we have over there. And with that, I'm going to open it up to questions. Give me just a second here to find the questions tab on my side. So the first question is, what if you don't want a live site? So that's a really good question. The AppPresser does need a WordPress site for it to be there, but there's a whole bunch of things that you could do. If it, you could do this. You could probably put it onto a subdomain off of your main site with no links going to it. You could then also, check the box inside of WordPress to make it so that search engines aren't finding and indexing that content on that website. So you could do all of those things. So the site does need to be live and accessible, but it doesn't necessarily have to be something that that people are going to go and find. All right. Can you build your own theme, or is Ion required? This is a great question, and we get this all of the time. So you don't have to use the Ion theme. It is not a requirement. What I will tell you, though, is Apple in particular are really they're really focusing on getting sites that look exactly like a website that has now been kind of crammed into a mobile app. They're trying to get those out of the App Store. So by using just let's say you're using just an off-the-shelf Genesis theme, there is a much higher likelihood that your app would be blocked from, or wouldn't be approved going into the app store if it looks too much like a standard quote unquote website rather than looking like an app. So we do suggest using the Ion theme, and then building a child theme off of that. And with a child theme, I mean, you can modify the living daylights out of the theme and make it look exactly like you want. If you have an existing theme, we do know that there have been folks who have kind of taken some of the elements for making it into a mobile app, taken those out of the Ion theme and baked those into their own theme. So can it be done? Yes, absolutely. You're probably just going to be in for a bit more work. And if you're a non-developer, this is definitely not going to be something that you would want to tackle. But that's a great question. Is your child theme put live or just let sit next to the Ion theme? Your child theme, like you've nailed it right on the head there. It would be uploaded to your WordPress website, but it would not be live, and it would just be one of the themes that would show in your quote unquote available themes on your website, but it would not be a active theme. So the only active theme on your website should be the theme that you want your visitors in a browser to be seeing. Good question. Let me see if I can get through this. One of the best practices for keeping the small mobile first theme and the app in sync. By that I mean UX and design should be as similar as possible. It shouldn't feel like two brands. I completely agree. You don't necessarily want your one site, your website is going to be green and your theme is going to be blue on your app and things like that. I think you can do that really easily by dealing with changing the fonts. And all of this can be done right in the in a child theme. You can change the fonts out to match what goes on your regular website, changing out the color scheme, which can be done right through the customizer, putting in your logo across the top. All of these things are going to still give your app that same kind of connection between your live website and your app, and kind of keep those in sync with your brand. I don't think that your app needs to mimic exactly what your live website looks like. I think that's kind of I think that would be overkill and probably not the best way to do it. Again, with an app, you're really looking to get your visitors to have access to your content real quick. Is the preview app for Android? Steve, I don't believe it is. I think there's one being worked on. I can get back to you on that, but I don't think at this point that the preview app is in the Google App Store. Is it possible to test add-ons, the camera, prior to submitting to the App Store? Yes. If you're using the preview app, like I was just talking about, you can test out some of those native device functionality right inside the app on your phone prior to building it. And not only that, as you're going through the build process with Apple, what you end up doing is you build a you create a provisioning license for your app and for your specific phone, and then what you can do is you actually create an entire build of the app that you can then install just as you would the final product onto your phone. And so you would be able to test out complete end-to-end every bit of functionality on the app prior to submission to the stores. Matthew, is there a way to show categories or posts instead of all posts? Absolutely. You could create a page that is displaying those. Actually, if you in my screenshot on that particular app that I built, what I did was I changed instead of pulling in posts, I changed it to pull in a specific custom post type. So it's very simple to do. But even if you didn't want to do that with a bit of custom functionality, you could do that just by having the main page be a page that is showing your category rather than the posts. Vinny asks, I see the license is for 5 on the basic plan. Does that mean I can make 5 apps on one pricing plan? That's right, Vinny. Yeah, you can build 5 apps through the system. If you need more than that, there is a I think the agency bundle lets you do 25. So, Alta asks, in general, what type of functionality is or isn't a good fit for WordPress or AppPresser? Oh, man. So, I've been building WordPress sites. I've been building websites in general for roughly 20 years, and with WordPress basically since about 3 months after its existence. These days, when I was running my own agency and now working with Web Dev Studios, I would always ask myself whenever somebody came to me, with their idea for building a website, is this a website that I would build in WordPress, or is it something that I would want to use a different tool for? And I'll be honest with you, anything that is kind of content driven is definitely going to be WordPress. Yes. I mean, the answer is always going to be yes, I would build that with WordPress. If you were trying to build a game with a lot of graphics and things like that, that's probably not something that you were going to be doing inside of AppPresser, but that's also probably not something that you would be building inside of WordPress in general. So the way that I see it with AppPresser is anything that I would think would be a good fit for WordPress itself, I'm thinking that would be a really good fit for AppPresser as well. Manny, like to know where I can find developer documentation and support if I want to extend the app features. I would start with docs.apppresser.com. You can go there. And is there a list of compatible issues that you know of with specific plugins like Gravity Forms, ACF? So I'll be honest with you, I've been using AppPresser for a while now, and I don't know of any specific plugin that flat out does not work with AppPresser. If you're using something like Gravity Forms, there may be some tweaking that you're going to need to do with some styles, which actually, if you looked at my screenshot, that is one of the styles that I included in my child theme was I wanted to make a couple of tweaks to the way that Gravity Forms was displaying on one or two of the different screens. So I haven't seen anything that is a flat out, you can't use this with AppPresser as far as plugins go. Um, if you run into anything, we do have support, and we're happy to help you kind of sort through some of those problems. But yeah, there's nothing that is just a strict will not work. Um, MF Simchak. So it's a design issue, but not really a technology issue. Kind of going back to the beginning. Yeah, it really is. It just kind of becomes a design where you want to just kind of make your theme kind of match what's going on with your app and your browser-based theme. How long is the coupon code valid for? Carol, I set it up for 1 month, so you have about a month. And don't forget that AppPresser also has a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you buy it and you don't like it for whatever reason, you've got 30 days to test it out. And in 30 days, you should have a pretty good idea whether or not you like it. Let's see here. If content is on the site is updated, will the app update automatically? Roger, great question. The answer is absolutely yes. And this is why I absolutely love building with AppPresser on WordPress. Because once you build the app and get that submitted into the App Store, now, you've already gone through the app submission process. You get approved by Apple and it's in there. Now, every piece of content that you write, new blog posts, new pages, new custom post types, all of that stuff is now available for you to display right inside of your app. There's no need to go back through that submission process. So if your homepage is showing all of your latest blogs, as soon as you uh, post a new blog to your WordPress website, the very next visitor who sees that, who goes to your app and loads that up, they're going to see that latest blog post. So yes, absolutely, it's available to your visitors and your users instantly. And you don't have to go through the build process again, or the submission process with Apple, which is fantastic. So in theory, you could start off today with just the latest blog posts and nothing else in your menu, and then over time you could then build out a completely new section where you've got membership and things like that. And again, you still don't need to go through that build process and submission process. Steve asks, as a developer, do you have an approximate range of time needed to submit an app for approval, and how long does it take to get approved? Great question. So the approval, or let's talk about the submission process. If it was me, I would suggest, so the submission process, there's a couple of different things to it. So building the app is kind of part of it. Couple of the other things that you're going to need to do as part of that process is, for Apple, they require you to have a few very specific sized images that are going to work as screenshots in the App Store and things like that. So, and icons and whatnot. So, if you don't already have those assets built, you could be like me, where you get to the end of your initial build process on your initial app, and then you start that process of, okay, I'm ready to submit, but yet you've now found yourself going and designing half a dozen or a dozen different graphics. So let's assume you've got those graphics in place and you're ready to go and you have all of the assets that you need. From that point, going through the iOS process of setting up all your license keys and distribution things, I would say that you're probably going to want half a day to a day to kind of figure all of those pieces out. Even with the step-by-step process, it is a bit of a process. So to assume that you're going to at some point get a little frustrated and maybe need to step away, but half a day to a day, and you can get that submission in. Once the submission is in, I have heard that it's typically like 48 hours to about a week to get an approval through Apple. But I can tell you that with my own experience on the first app that I submitted to the store, um, my through the iOS store, my app was approved within 24 hours. I think I was probably lucky, and I would not call that the norm. I may have just been lucky and hit it at a spot where there was, only a couple thousand apps in the queue rather than a million. So I would probably plan on 3 to 5 days. Is probably a pretty good bet. Oh, I'm sorry. I also wanted to say that the submission process into the Google Play Store, from the time I hit submit on the final submission to go live, uh, 90 minutes, I think, is what the turnaround time was on that. Are there any costs for the PhoneGap build? No, not at all. So the PhoneGap account is completely free. When you do the build on AppPresser, on build.apppresser.com, you take that zip file, you create the app over in PhoneGap, upload the file, and then that's going to just generate the two files that you need, one for iOS and one for Android, and that is a free account. Sub question: what type of apps is not a good fit for WordPress or AppPresser? Are there any red flags or pitfalls? I think I've kind of already answered this. I don't. I think that's. Yeah, I think that as long as you're kind of sticking to more like the content-based themes or apps, you're not going to run into problems building the app. How about caching, Varnish, Object Cache, and others? So, this that question kind of ties right into exactly how you would deal with your website itself, right? So your WordPress website, you would want that so all of the same things that you would do on that behalf, you would be doing the exact same things for your app. So there's nothing necessarily specific that's going to be needed for the app. So for me, I use Cloudflare as kind of a front end, and just depending on what hosting that you have, you probably want, if it's going to be a popular app, I would strongly suggest that you do get some really good hosting. But that's the same type of advice I would give you for what would you do with a WordPress website, right? So it's pretty much the exact same thing in that respect. Have I ever used it with Events Calendar Pro? Jake, I haven't myself, but again, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work. I think more than anything, you would be needed for looking at the style sheet, and maybe the layout might be may need a little bit of tweaking, but from a functionality standpoint, assuming that it works in WordPress, I'm going to go ahead and assume that it's going to work right inside of your app as well. Manny, what's the coupon code? Let me back up here. I can't back up. That's not good. The coupon code was WDS webinar, and I can put that into the chat room here. Let's see. Whoops. Let's try that again. There you go. WDS webinar. And if you need it, you guys, you're always welcome to contact me. Here's my contact information, john@webdevstudios.com. So if you have any questions about this that I don't answer on this webinar, you're welcome to just hit me up there. Let's see. Lisa asks, who generally is the owner of the AppPresser license for connecting to a website, developer or directly to the customer? This is another really good question. Again, I kind of would say that how you treat your customers with regards to who owns licenses for plugins and add-ons, I would kind of treat it the exact same way. If you wanted If you were an agency and you wanted to purchase the agency bundle, you could then offer this as a service and manage the. You could be the owner of that license, and I think that would be just fine. If you're doing this for one specific client and it's not something that you don't think it's something that you're going to be doing over and over and over again, you might want to have the user, the client, be the owner, so that way, if when the renewal happens, if your guys' relationship is no longer, then that way they would still have that direct access to the license. But yeah, I think it really just kind of depends on how you run your business and how you handle the licensing for pretty much any plugin. Because again, at the end of the day, that's really what this is. It's AppPresser is a set of plugins and a theme. Alta asks, what's involved in maintaining an app over the course of, say, a year as compared to a WordPress site, which needs regular updates? So again, this is running right alongside your existing WordPress website. So every single time WordPress comes out with an update and you run that update because it's on your website, well, you just updated it for your app as well. I don't see anything that's very, very specific to the app that would be, or to AppPresser, that's any different than any other plugins. AppPresser pushes out updates to its plugins on a pretty regular basis. So the AppPresser core plugin and some of the add-ons, those all get, and the Ion theme, those all get updates as we go along. And you would just run those updates just like you would any other WordPress plugin update. If you do like a staging site, and you could run those plugin updates on staging, maybe test them with the preview app, make sure everything is still running the way that you expect prior to running them on the live site. But yeah, it would really just kind of fall right into exactly how you manage your WordPress site. What about a site based on BuddyPress that allows members to upload videos? Is AppPresser a good option? Carol, you might want to take a look on apppresser.com on the examples page. We have a example app on there called Press Chat, and that is actually using BuddyPress. Um, Download it to your phone, give it a shot. But the short answer is yeah, absolutely. Using BuddyPress with the camera to upload, to let your users upload, absolutely. That would absolutely work. Steve asks, is there any way to tell that an app you are using was created with AppPresser? That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. I don't think so, but we can tell you what. I'll find out, Steve, and I will get back to you. I'm not 100% positive on that. And this is a good question. Can the license be transferred out of the bundle? Um, I don't know the answer to that question. You could send a email to support at apppresser.com or hit us up through the contact form, and one of the guys that knows a bit more about it will help you out with that. Cool. All right. Well, it looks like I've made it to the end of the questions. I'll hang out here for another minute or two to see if we get any other questions coming in. I hope you found this useful. The process is really straightforward. I've done it myself. I've gone through it from beginning to end. I've released an app into the iOS store and to the Google Play Store. So I've been there, I've done it. So if you have any questions that I didn't answer on this, please hit me up on Twitter at Vegas Geek, or send me an email. I'm happy to help out. Is there a list of add-on apps? Matthew, if you go to apppresser.com and click on, I believe it's on the features page. If it's not on the features page, click on the pricing page and you'll actually see a list of all of the different add-ons that are available and in what package each of those comes in. All right. Well, again, I want to thank you for your time today. Thanks for checking out the webinar. If you have any questions, hit me up. And again, the coupon code WDS webinar if you want to use that. And thanks again, and we'll talk to you soon.